much like our recent story on Rick Ross suing Rick Ross. Today's video is a tale of Russ on Russ crime delivered to you by your boy Traplaw Russ. But I know what some of you lot are thinking. Who the hell is Russ? And unfortunately, the answer to that question is complex. Thing is, I know about 65% of my viewers are American. And so my American viewers, I ask you, what comes to your mind when you see this picture? Perhaps words like douche, herb, or irrelevant come to mind. Then again, some of you will be perplexed with absolutely no idea who this man is. Racking your brains trying to remember who this is. Ooh, is it the valet that stole the change out of my coin tray? Well no, my humble American viewers, this is the American rapper Russ. And now for around 11% of my audience that are British, I ask you what comes to your mind when I show you this picture? Perhaps words like verbalist, dancer boy, or if your name's RV, punching bag. Well, my humble British viewers, that is of course the British Russ. Yes, there is quite the irony that both sides of the pond we have our own respective rappers called Russ. And funnily enough, in both cases, they both seem to be wildly successful and universally hated. And of course, the super irony of all of this is that of course these two Russes hate each other. So gang, in today's special double-header episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at why everybody seems to hate you if you're a rapper named Russ. Starting in the United States of A. As easy as it is to hate on this pasty, Wonder Bread looking, long hair having, looking like a roadie on a Love Fist tour motherfucker, it's hard to deny Russ's ability on the mic. Or at least at the very start, his motivation to continue to grip the mic even in the absence of any actual talent. Starting out on the production side of things, he was initially the beat maker as part of his Demon crew. Demon standing for Do It Every Day or Nothing. And that crew's first music video for El Jefe was actually one of Russ's earliest public productions. And frankly, it was a pretty wavy beat and a fire song. Damn it, I was hoping that song was shit so we could roast Russ some more, but give it some time, give it some time. Anyway, El Jefe was not only a cold song, but it also had a pretty slick music video. Far beyond the quality that you'd expect from a do-it-yourself outfit that are just making their first steps in the industry. And El Jefe would actually be followed up by Russ's first public outing on the microphone and on camera, the self-produced track Corleone, where he appeared in the music video looking like a dollar store Fredo Corleone doing his best Scarface impression. I can't tell if that chair is really big or if Russ is just really small. Anywho, this is frankly pretty classic boom bap fare, which doesn't really float my boat, and if it doesn't tick your boxes either, fair enough. But you can't deny that Russ made a pretty decent beat and his flow isn't bad either. Some kind of early Mac Miller Kids vibes on that, I don't know. Anyway, this video ends up with an artistic twist as the camera pans out and we realise that Russ has been held up at gunpoint the whole time. Ironic because these days most people would use the threat of gunfire to stop Russ spitting his whack bars. But in addition to this on-camera appearance, by this time in his recording career, Russ was already 2 mixtapes deep. Or albums as he was calling them, doesn't really make a difference these days, does it? But anyway, he'd already dropped Velvet and Apollo 13, which I've got to say have pretty dope cover arts for a newcomer. And my god, Russ truly lived up to the mantra of his record label Do It Every Day or Nothing, because between December 2011 and August 2014, he dropped a whopping 11 albums. I mean, it's not quite on Viper's level in both quantity or quality, but hey, it's a good effort. And hey, let's run through all of those albums, because Russ made the effort to record them and make dope cover art for them. Well, I say dope cover art, I mean at least put his logo over the first Google image that he could find. He had the album 5280, which was named after what Russ rates his own music out of 10. He dropped Vacation that had a very artistic cover art depicting a bunch of rap fans running away from a new shipment of Russ mixtapes. Straight from Limbo, which included a super close-up image of Russ's tight little two-tone butthole. God, it's amazing he manages to fit his head up there, isn't it? He had his album The Edge, which, hang on, wait a minute, why is the cover art not showing up? What's wrong with the edit? Is there something wrong with the edit? Like, can we turn the lights on or something? Oh, that black square is the cover art? 6 albums in, getting lazy, Russ. As we see, his 7th release, Colorblind, is also just a grey square. See, I was on board until now, but you see, the seeds of Russ hatred are just starting to bloom. We've all been there, haven't we? Luckily, by the next release, he decided to put in the proper effort for his fan and make an actual cover art. He dropped Pink Elephant that included a trippy, mythical, desirable-looking purple door, which I can assume was the only exit from a Russ concert. But to be fair, by album 9, he's back on top form with a cover art that finally wins me over. With a cover art that seemed to depict a fresh skid mark on Takeshi 6ix9ine's soiled prison issue drawers. Following that up with another colourful artwork for his album Silence, with fans being massively disappointed when they played it out loud and found out that it actually included songs by Russ. And finally, we get to his 11th album, the 50 Cent title stealing How to Rob. An incredibly ironic title when you consider the fact that the entire front cover is just a stock image of a bank vault door, which is as lazy, but admittedly more creative than those black and grey covers. In fact, I kind of wish that rappers would just use copyright-free stock imagery for their album covers more often. I mean, who could forget Jay and Ye's Watch the Throne, Young Thug's Barter 6, or of course the Migos Culture. Anywho, lazy cover art aside, American Russ's incredible work rate gave him an enormous back catalogue sure to keep his fan entertained. But unfortunately, 11 albums deep, he just wasn't seeing the numbers he was looking for. And so in October 2014, he decided to forego the frequent releasing of albums in favour of dropping a new song every week on SoundCloud. I assume because he'd run out of Shutterstock credits. And within the next few years of SoundCloud posting, he would rack up a couple 100,000 followers, as well as using YouTube to release singles and music videos from some of his top shelf tracks, and famously using the independent music publishing platform TuneCore to monetize his tracks on streaming services. During this period, his biggest songs and music videos were uploaded to the Demon.com YouTube channel, where you can find a brilliant selection of early Russ bangers like Young Pacino, featuring a music video shot in an alternate universe where Al Pacino is just an American frat douche with a pet snake. There's Goodbye, a breakup song where Russ swings his feminine long hair around like a teenage goth girl going through a first breakup. There's the aptly titled Murder Me, chance to be a fine thing, and rather hilariously the tracks Tell Me, Problem, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, Lucy, The Mirror, and Abra, where Russ genuinely uses each individual music video to showcase a different photo booth effect on his 2011 MacBook Pro. And I'm guessing by the time the video for I Can't Lie dropped, his MacBook was broken and he seemed to shoot the music video of him driving to the Mac store. Anywho, by the time Russ's SoundCloud experiment was picking up steam, he would begin to transcend the amateur quality music videos we were just beginning to love, eventually transitioning to drop music videos exclusively on his own official Russ YouTube channel, which is where we would begin to see Russ uploading higher quality music videos for the tracks that would eventually become his breakout hits and plaque-getting tunes. This includes the likes of the epilepsy-inducing Losing Control, there's Do It Myself where Russ and his boys showed that they were social distancing way before it was cool, back in the line at the discount mall. And of course the ultimate diss to rap game cappers for The Stunt, where he drops the epic line, I was broke a year ago but I worked for this, dropped 11 albums, they all flopped, but I learned from it. And I've got to say at this point, one of the biggest things I admire about Russ is his tenacity to never give up and never stop chasing his dream, no matter how whack, pasty or lame he might have seemed at the time, because after all of that heartache and dropping mixtapes that will be heard by less people than a hypothetical tree falling in the woods, he would eventually get his big break. Because off of the back of the momentum of his weekly SoundCloud uploads, he ended up landing a big partnership with Columbia Records, hence the swift improvement in quality and budget on his music videos around the time. And so with the big distribution machine of Columbia behind him, combined with the dedicated self-built fan base and the savvy business brain to call the shots on his deal, Russ was in a prime position to cash in on all of his hard work and huge catalogue. And from here, his career went from strength to strength. And after 11 albums had flopped, turns out that 12 times the charm, baby, because his Columbia-backed album There's Really a Wolf debuted at number 7 on Billboard, eventually going platinum in 2018. But to be fair, I think the majority of those sales were Russ himself. And Russ explained the title of this album being a reference to The Boy Who Cried Wolf. After all of the releases that he'd made up until this point, this album represented the one time that there really was a wolf. And off the back of this, Russ was cashing in even further, embarking on his lucrative The Wake Up Tour in 2017, and following that album up with his 13th album Zoo that hit number 4 on Billboard. And also his most recent outing Shake the Snow Globe, slotting in at number 4, as well as having genuinely impressed me with how good it is. In fact, some of the tracks on that Russ album were so good, they led me to put it in my exclusive Trap Lore Daily playlist on Spotify. An amazing selection of the hottest tracks I currently have in rotation, which I keep updated most days. Click the link in description and go follow that, baby. Anywho, that's the story of how American Russ actually blew up. And honestly, it's quite an inspiring tale of determination, resilience, and business savvy. I mean, really, what's there not to like? Well, as it turns out, lots. Now, having recently listened to a bunch of Russ's music that I had up until now overlooked, he's clearly a talented artist. His verses can be fire, and he knows how to write a good hook. As much as it pains me to say it because of how hilarious it is to hate on Russ, he is actually decent. And I know a lot of people think he's corny, as comes with the territory of being a white rapper. And sure, a lot of his old music videos, and promotional materials do make him look like a complete melt. But you've got to respect anybody that is willing to repeatedly fail in public in front of their audience in order to get good at their craft. Shit, do you have any idea how many whack videos that I made before I got here? So today, we're going to be doing a little reaction video. So his latest album, Shake the Snow Globe, is undeniably good and not a complete cornfest as many had expected. So, why does everyone hate Russ? Because he seems like a nice guy at times. Look, here's him buying his dad a car. Come on, he's a good kid, he just runs his mouth a little. But there really is a few clear reasons why everybody hates Russ, and they all stem from one main thing: ego. Because once success came knocking, Russ had truly paid the cost to be the boss, massively reaping the dividends for all of the groundwork that he put in, recording 11 whole albums with no recognition leaving him with a huge cache of quality music once he became a famous free agent looking to sign a big deal. But unfortunately, once Russ had glowed up fully, he struggled to stay humble and constantly used his time in the spotlight to shit on others. Something which, to be fair, he happily acknowledges himself.
Why do you think that your success made certain people uncomfortable?
Because I rub my success in people's faces. That's why it's annoying. It's like being Tom Brady and like in every interview you're doing with the rings on.
So yes, Russ's cockiness and bravado really does know no bounds.
And I was wondering, like, why do people hate Russ?
Because I was always big up in myself, super confident.
A little cocky. As a person should, though.
And there's numerous instances where Russ's running his mouth has upset members of the hip-hop community. I personally feel that Russ's ego trips can be put under 3 categories. 1, I put myself on, so fuck you. 2, I produce my own beats, so fuck you. And 3, you do drugs, so fuck you. Now I know a lot of haters were seething with rage when Russ appeared on Joe Budden's Pull Up podcast, surrounded by platinum plaques and insecurity.
Let's also give context. We're inside of my house, right?
I think they know.
Well,
I don't have your plaques hanging up.
No, but they might think that we rented a warehouse, we hung up plaques.
Oh yeah, like I normally do that.
And even if you don't like the pasty, long-haired clown sitting in front of those plaques, you can't deny that Russ earned every single one of them. And I tell you what, there's enough plaques on that wall to put to rest any suggestions that he's a fluke or devoid of any real talent. But obviously, big accolades lead to big heads. And it's been exemplified in so many of Russ's musical and public appearances that it can be hard to keep track. In its more harmless incarnation, Russ's cockiness and self-belief shines through in a positive light. For example, on the self-help anthem Manifest. It's an uplifting message to the listeners to believe in themselves and go and get the things that they desire. But on the other hand, in more irritating moments, he comes across like Kanye West on a cocaine binge.
I'm winning the most Grammys of all time, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing, people get mad that I'll say some shit like that, but it's like, am I not supposed to fuck with myself? Am I not supposed to want to be number 1? You know what I'm saying? So I don't give a fuck, I'm getting the most fucking Grammys, period.
Who can't sell over 60K in a week? Like, if that doesn't tell you that actually no one's checking for your music and we're looking at you as a court jester, then I don't know what will. You feel me? I don't know what will.
I mean, did any of your friends try to discourage you or your family try to discourage you from
Nah, my family didn't. My family didn't, but yeah, there was people like at school that would just talk shit, but they're broke and they live 9-to-5 lives now.
For example, in the video Exposed, he says that he doesn't have openers at his concerts because he is the only one who deserves to play in front of the fan base that he built himself. So the thing is, although being arrogant from an outsider's perspective, what he's actually doing here is smart because he's communicating directly with his fans. Because it's important to remember that Russ's arrogance is only directed to his haters, his ops, and his peers. But whenever he communicates regarding his fans, he does so with the utmost gratitude because they're the one group that put him there. And they are the one group that he owes something to. Hence why it's so easy to hate Russ unless you're a fan of Russ. Moving on to point number 2. When it comes to production, we have to give Russ his props. Most of these big rappers don't produce their own beats, let alone mix or master them. Hell, the majority of rappers these days, their only job is to keep their mouths open while an engineer flings Xanax towards their mouths and records the subsequent auto-tuned garbles. And this jack of all trades rapping and producing ability is something that Russ is eager to bring up anytime he's having an ego trip. Sorry, I mean using Twitter. But the issue comes not when Russ is showing self-belief, you know, bigging up his own achievements and taking a hearty huff of his own bottom burps. The real problem comes when he uses this perspective to shit on his peers. For example, when he told Vlad TV that the producers were responsible for a dip in quality of music because they were turning in whack beats.
You blame the rappers for the state of hip hop. Rappers are not making the music. You gotta blame the producers. Producers are making whack shit.
Of course, this moment prompted immediate backlash from the production community, with Metro Boomin declaring Russ is whack. Well, you know what happens when young Metro don't trust you. But Russ was still unapologetic after the backlash, suggesting that anyone mad is just admitting that their beats are whack.
I was talking about anyone who makes whack beats. So if you responded, I assume you think you make whack beats.
But of course, once again, Russ makes his own beats, so why the fuck does he care if all of the producer community hate him? And so finally, we can get on to point 3, the anti-drug Russ hate, which was all sparked by Russ wearing an anti-drug PSA t-shirt back in 2017, as well as sharing his perspective on wanting to speak out against drug use in hip-hop on Twitter, saying that if he stopped one kid from abusing drugs, then mission accomplished. And let's be real and look at this with hindsight. He is spot on. We all remember when Juice WRLD died, and that throwback clip emerged, where he said that he was specifically enticed into doing lean by Future's music.
When I heard Future, the first song I ever heard by Future was Ain't No Way Around It. The second song I've ever heard by Future is Dirty Sprite, like off the first Dirty Sprite mixtape. And that shit had me wanting to sip lean at like 11, 12 years old, bro.
And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in particular for their music. I love getting lit to some Future. But Russ is right, perhaps there is a need for a more balanced perspective on drugs in hip hop. Because hey, having literally one artist that doesn't advocate the constant daily use of addictive and dangerous pharmaceuticals might be a good thing. However, unfortunately for Russ, that was a different time in hip hop. And a few months after debuting that T, Lil Peep tragically passed away of an overdose. And seemingly with very poor judgment, Russ decided that this was the time for another anti-drug Twitter PSA that naturally rubbed a few people up the wrong way. Particularly formerly relevant rapper and current poster child for drug-induced brain damage, Smoke Perp was positively pissed, dissing Russ on Twitter, but even more savagely, putting a photograph of Russ's sister as his Instagram display picture. An image which I've censored here because I don't want Russ's goons pulling up on me in Bognor Regis. And well, if you were assuming that Russ's goons were fake on some Martin Shkreli shit, you would be wrong, because in retaliation for this, Smoke Perp ended up getting a backstage beatdown at Splash Festival that was spectacularly captured on video, but I'm not going to show you here because this will probably get demonetized. I heard that after this, Russ's goons shook him upside down until the perks fell out of his pockets. So the thing is, whether or not you agree with the sentiment on these 3 points, Russ's ego about being self-made, being a jack of all trades, or his outspokenness on drug use or other hip-hop issues, the fact is that Russ's position on all of these points have only done wonders for his profile and his career. Because all publicity is good publicity, baby. And Russ hatred, frankly, has been the best marketing tool for Russ's music one could imagine. Because all the people talking shit about him constantly are promoting him for free. Anyone that likes him already likes him more, and anyone that already hates him just can't stop talking about it. And if anything, this genius, Kanye-esque strategy is just yet another dimension of Russ's genius as a smart marketer beyond being a decent rapper and producer and purveyor of stock image websites. Notice he never takes a shit on graphic designers, eh? But the thing is, as I mentioned at the start of this video, American Russ isn't the only Russ that everyone hates. Because over here in jolly old England, we have our own budget knockoff version of Russ, who ironically is just as hated as the American Russ, and fortunately for us, hates him back. Now, if there's one person who certainly has a bone to pick with American Russ, it's British Russ. You might have referred to him as Russ Millions, Russ MB, Russ Splash, Rush, Rush with a Russian, or just Russian. Well, they're all the same guy, and it's a British guy called Russ. Now, I actually briefly touched on the beef between these two over the international rights to the name Russ in my 2019 A Year in Hip Hop video. But that beef evolved this year when British Russ decided that it would be a good idea to call out Pop Smoke for stealing a beat from him just after he died. And frankly, shit like this is the exact reason why everybody in Britain hates British Russ too. But unlike American Russ, British Russ does have some street credentials. Being a UK drill artist, the majority of Russ hate initially stemmed from a street beef, having supposedly switched sides from the drill crew 814 of the Ghetto Boys early in his career. And off the back of that, beginning a long-running trend of getting attention by mocking the deceased when one of his most hated ops from his former crew was moided. Within a week, he was dissing that fallen driller by name on the track Tribute 811, with a line that was considered incredibly disrespectful, being that it was aimed at such a recently deceased rival, someone who was actually fairly popular and making a name for themselves and was only 16 at the time they passed. And this posthumous drilling got British Russ a lot of negative karma and attention. And from there, much like a British Takeshi 6ix9ine, Russ started to use social media to call out drill ops on Snapchat, and in the process, getting his name ringing in the streets.
But you zone to you some fucking neat, Sam. Zone to our pussy on Sam. What though? More time. What I'm saying, hey Rico, suck your mum.
So he got himself into various beefs, attracting some equally disrespectful disses from his ops in the process, and of course cashing in on the beef himself with his own catchy musical replies. And so with a smorgasbord of street beefs constantly popping, all eyes in the British drill scene were on Russ. And lucky for him, he was able to finesse all of this negative attention into his favour. Already hot off the legendary track Link Up with JB2 and Chucks, British Russ used his momentum at the end of 2018 to drop the huge commercial crossover drill anthem Gun Lean, an infectious tune mortalizing the heavy firearm brandishing dance move that Russ was frequently referencing in his songs. Gun lean, man, gun lean on the beat as well. That one. Gun Lean was a certified smash, and he was racking up accolades after accolades, baby. Now you got to remember that UK drill and just the UK music market in general is a much smaller scene relative to what you guys got going on over in America. So for us, racking up 12 million views and 13 million on the remix of a drill tune is a huge deal. Gun Lean landed Russ a spot in the UK charts at number 9, and that song hung around on the charts for 9 whole weeks, being the second drill song ever to chart and subsequently going silver. And the Gun Lean dance itself actually went viral, with footballers Josh Koroma and Jesse Lingard pulling the Gun Lean to celebrate goals on the pitch. But Russ wasn't done flexing on his ops, oh no, because the pop sequel to Gun Lean, Keisha and Becky with Tion Wayne ended up doing even better, racking up millions of views on the release, and then dropping a crazy remix that ended up racking 32 million views, spurring that song to go platinum and landing on the UK charts at number 7 and staying on the charts for 31 weeks. But obviously, when you're a verbalist with all that success, you're never far from your ops. Firstly, British Russ didn't help his situation by constantly using his newfound success to flex and call out his ops for being broke.
Furthermore, hold on. Hey, this is for the haters as well. Fucking pussy, you say I'm still busting off. You say I was busting off. Hey, Fredo, fam, suck your mommy pussy, bruv.
As well as attracting the hate of the Tottenham-based OFB crew, famously headed by their 50p-headed frontman, Heady1, or as the Americans have been calling him, Heady1, a crew who'd had a long-running street beef with Russ's Keisha and Becky collaborator, Tion Wayne, due to him being a niner from Edmonton. Now, that particular beef saw a lot of low-class back-and-forthing, which I'm definitely not going to get into now, but it did lead to a rather hilarious incident where Russ pulled out of performing at Wireless Festival, claiming it was due to feeling disrespected by Polo G, being booked to go on after him, suggesting that that wasn't right because Russ has more hits. With many keen-eyed drillologists seeing firmly through this flimsy excuse to avoid the OFB boys turning up and gun leaning on his face. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that right now he is also beefing with his former Bezzy mate, Taze. So as you can see, there is plenty of reasons to hate on British Russ. But to bring this entire crossover episode full circle, let's finally take a look at why Russ hates Russ and Russ hates Russ. So the real beef between British Russ and American Russ started around the start of 2019 when the song Gun Lean started popping. Obviously, by this point, American Russ was already pretty big, having had 2 Billboard charting albums and numerous plaque certifications at this point. And it's likely that before the song Gun Lean released and before British Russ signed to Virgin Records, American Russ had no fucking idea who this dude was. But while the runaway success of Gun Lean might have been the first instance of American Russ finding out who British Russ was, it was actually a feud between British Russ and Danny Press Play, the proprietor of Press Play, the British music YouTube platform that hosted Gun Lean, as well as many other classic drill anthems from Russ and beyond. Because seemingly out of nowhere, Press Play renamed all of Russ's videos on their channel to Rush. And this was apparently in response to American Russ finding out how big British Russ was getting over here and being positively pissed. And being the verbalist he is, British Russ took to IG Live to diss Danny Press Play for changing his name.
You lot thought that you could change my name. Now look, now you lot are exposed. So who's laughing last, you little bitches? Man are shook of me, so they didn't delete my name. They didn't delete my video, so they changed my name. Delete the whole thing, you batty boys. Do you get me? Man, I real tug, that's why they didn't delete my shit. You get me? But fuck that, fuck your company, I'll expose you, fam. That's how moist they are. They just put Rush with a H. Moist, you lot are moist. Like, do it with your chest.
With Danny Press Play replying and sharing the legal notice that he got from American Russ, forcing him to change his name. So unlike Freeway Ricky Ross, apparently American Russ has his name trademarked in the US and no one else can use that name. And this is actually the reason that if you're an American, you probably need a VPN to listen to any of British Russ's big songs because the majority of them are blocked in the US. But funnily enough, it wouldn't be for another year until the tragic passing of Pop Smoke when we'd finally see American Russ publicly acknowledging British Russ. Because when British Russ came out at the time to reveal to the world that Pop Smoke had stolen his beat for Foreigner, American Russ begun to get angry messages from confused fans thinking that it was him dissing Pop Smoke. Of course, provoking a delicious reply from British Russ, dissing him for taking long about being able to use his name in America. Honestly, for me, that was a bigger moment in British music culture than anyone Drake has taken a picture next to ever. Ultimately, there must be something special about the name Russ that just bestows anyone who goes by that name with an enormous and uncontrollable ego and propensity to pour gasoline on any beef that comes their way. Honestly, I feel like the American Russ is really not a bad guy. He deserves the accolades he's earned for what is a genuinely impressive and mainly slept-on catalogue of music. And if anything, he deserves to be commended for his genius marketing strategy of constantly trolling his ops for attention, because it works. The UK Russ, on the other hand, well, he's very talented. I personally think that British Russ does have one of the most impressive catalogue of hits for a UK drill artist in this country. But unfortunately, the level of disrespect he tends to bring to his beefs pretty much always goes too far, especially when he's insulting people who've passed away. And the sad result is these beefs tend to completely overshadow his music, which is generally quite good, but maybe not good enough to justify just how bad his behaviour is. I personally like both Russes, but I fully understand why they get the hate they do. And I ultimately think, much like your boy 6ix9ine, they're both fully aware of what they're doing and reaping the rewards. But if I have one prayer, one hope in the world, it's that one day British Russ and American Russ can stop beefing over the name Russ, come together and make the ultimate UK-US Russ on Russ collaboration. Because realistically, I think that all Russ fans both sides of the pond want to turn that negativity into something positive and hear both Russes diss everyone who isn't Russ for the culture. I've been your boy Russ Law Russ. Peace out. Oh, and follow my SoundCloud. I'm going to drop some songs like Russ. You dig? Gang, head on over to soundcloud.com/TrapLawRuss because I've just dropped a new track on my Russ shit. And I've also uploaded all of my sponsor songs there. I know a lot of people have been asking if I can upload the sponsor songs to Spotify or whatever, or SoundCloud. So I've decided to whack all of that stuff into SoundCloud. And I'm also gonna make the effort to release a whole bunch of new music. Go check out my last music video for Posh and Bex if you haven't. That shit was fire. Shout out everyone that was involved in making that and everybody that's been watching it and commenting so far. I appreciate you. And I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon gang. That's DeJuan Jones, Ban Johnson, Jay, Chris, Sebastian Andres Laredo, Sean Anderson, Vampires for Hire, Roberto Rosas, Matthias Martin, Deshaun Campbell, Antonio Groza, Bash the Prince, Chris J, Claire Audient, DJ Fred 100, Griffin Fuller, Henry Bryan, Jaden Cho, Jason Wyman, Javier Gonzalez, Jessica Simmons, Kizzlebot, Niraj Shukla, Otaku VS, Penis Bag McPenis Face, Pyromancer, Vivi, Wilson Psychedelic, and all of the other names that you can see on screen now. I appreciate all of your support, and we're going to make sure that all of the money from April goes to worthy causes, fighting against the ongoing health crisis that everyone's pretty fucking sick of at this stage. It just doesn't end, does it? It just doesn't fucking end, does it? It just never ends. But anyway, fuck the health crisis. It's a bitch. We're going to overcome it, and shout out the patrons. Head over to the SoundCloud, show your boys some love, get in there, tell me what you think of the new tune that I just dropped for you. Gang, appreciate you, and peace.